I'm Scott L. Miller. It's the 13th of August, 2022, and welcome to my daily vlog of life in León, Nicaragua. And today is Sunday, and I spent the entire day hanging out with Liesel. We made it a video game day, just the two of us. Luciana wanted to sleep and do her own thing most of the day, so I didn't record any video on the actual day of today. Instead, I'm actually recording this on Tuesday morning while recording tomorrow's video, but I wanted to grab some cool views of neat parts of town that I don't normally film as I walk through. So I'm gonna kind of hold the camera out so you can kind of see me and see town all at once. I'm on the kind of north central of El Centro. As I come up to, I believe I'm about to hit 6th Street as I walk north. I'm not actually sure which street I'm on, but I'm on the street with First Baptist Church if you want to find it on a map, or I'll probably show a map because that's what I do. So I'm out for a walk, and first I'm going to tell about my day because it was very, very short. So Liesel and I wanted to play video games. She did not feel like recording today, so we just looked for a video game that just the two of us wanted to play that we had not played before, and something that we weren't too worried about not recording. And we found the inner world, which we've actually had for probably a decade, and have played it, but only for maybe 15 minutes at most. I'm gonna let this truck go by. That's the city garbage truck. They all know me. So so we played the inner world, and we probably have had the game for about 8 years, 7 or 8 years, and it always looked interesting, but never made the top of our list of things we wanted to play. And so today we're like, you know what, let's give this a try. And so we fired it up, and we ended up being able to play through we started relatively early in the morning and played all day and finished the game in the evening, and then hung out and watched some Arrested Development. But it was nice. We played a point-and-click adventure game through the whole story in one day, which is a really nice way to go, because when you do that, you really get into the story and are able to spend the day getting to know the characters, and you don't forget what's going on, and you're on top of it really, really well. So that was a lot of fun. We had a really nice day. It was very relaxing. I didn't do any recording all day. And that was it. So that was pretty cool. Now, our topic for the day is zoning in Nicaraguan cities. And that may sound like a really boring topic, but it's interesting how this plays out. And real quickly, I'm gonna turn, because I'm at this really cool park, which I've filmed before on the Fatima episode, but it has been quite a while, and a lot of you have not seen that episode. And I'm about to turn at the road up here by the church, because I'm heading to, I hope, Paseo Royal for tomorrow's episode. So, and it's really warm out here. Well, it's not really warm, it's really humid. It was nice this morning. I got up and I'm like, I'm gonna go walking. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be a perfect day. I'm gonna go before it gets hot. And by the time I was able to get out, first of all, it takes like 3 hours to get out of the house because I have to deal with getting work ready. I've got to get everything ready to film. I got to make sure the kids are ready. The mosquito fumigators showed up as I started to walk, which is cool. The crew that goes around and does all the fumigation was there. So I got a quick shot of them, and you can see what they're like. By the way, this is the church up here at the north central of El Centro. You can see the fruit market going on. But while I was getting ready to go, it started raining, and so it only rained a little bit, so it didn't really cool anything down. It just made it really humid. We are expecting a rainstorm this evening and quite a bit of the night, and there's possibly an incoming hurricane over the next few days, so gonna be a lot of rain, but right now it's just humid. All right, I'm in this really beautiful part of town. This is El Centro right here, and over here is a barrio whose name I don't actually know because it's impossible to look up, but this is a gorgeous spot in town, and I don't know what all these businesses are up here, but there's this big building here, and there's parks just up here, and then there's going to be a cemetery over here quite some ways, and this is actually a boulevard, but it's a boulevard very far on the north of town, and I've never actually taken it. But this road that I'm about to walk up here is one that we take every so often in the taxi as we come from Fatima and return to La Borrillo. So I know this area a tiny bit, but truly only a tiny bit. I'm gonna try to cross this really wide road. It's interesting that the roads up here are really big, and it's such a beautiful area, but there's not a lot of traffic. For some reason, it really dies down. I can only imagine because these aren't really through roads. They're more of neighborhood roads, even though they're really wide. I don't really know. And there's some organization over here that has quite a few people, the John F. Kennedy Foundation, but I don't know what it is. Looks like a lot of kids playing in there, and there are some kids out on the playground. I should note this is the middle of the day on a Tuesday, so you wouldn't expect that I'm filming. This is Sunday's update, but you would expect a few more people. This giant building in pink is very quiet. It has no signs anywhere. I have no idea what it is. This is a nice playground, very nice spot, and one of the few places that has grass. Having grass, now this is the rainy season, but still we don't expect a ton of grass ever. And we're gonna head up to this park up here. So zoning, as I walk through an interesting neighborhood with very different things, is a great time to talk about zoning. One of the things that's very different about Nicaragua and a lot of places compared to the United States is the way that they zone or simply don't zone neighborhoods. But this makes life in Nicaragua very, very different than what North Americans are typically used to. Of course, this is the stadium right here that I just came up, the baseball stadium. This is where the Leones play when we come to see them, and this is a beautiful little park, and the roads here are very interesting. I'm actually going to head down this way, and then we'll come back by the stadium, most likely in tomorrow's episode. This is a great area. So, and a beautiful little house here on the left. All this shade here with these gorgeous mature trees is fantastic. On a hot day, this would be such a nice area compared to so much of the city. There are a lot of trees in León, not as much as Chinandega, but it is not it doesn't have giant trees like this in most places. This is noticeably cooler as you walk into this area. So I like this a lot. I'm going to show a little bit more of the stadium over there as we go by. So when you're in Nicaragua, or a lot of places, one of the things that's incredibly different than in the US is that businesses exist in homes almost everywhere, on almost every block. So as you're walking through a city, and when you see me walking through a city, I think people often get this impression that I'm on very quiet streets, I'm all alone, there's no one around, and very rarely is that actually the case. What is actually happening is a lot of the houses that you see on every side are actually businesses. Of course, there are exceptions, and many of them are houses, right? But on any given block, at least one or two of the houses that you see are actually businesses that run out of the house. Now, this happens for a variety of reasons. One is zoning. In the US, you're not allowed to generally put a business in just every random house. So you don't have people simply saying, oh, I would like to have a business for something. Here's I believe this is no longer open, but this is one of the universities, the Nicaraguan Technological University. Definitely has the feeling of being abandoned at the moment, at least, but an interesting spot. If that was open and thriving, that would really make for a beautiful location. That building is very sad. Look at that beautiful bird hanging out there. I hope you can see it right about there. Oh, he just flew. There he goes. There's some nice spots up here. This is definitely what used to be a very ritzy neighborhood that has fallen on hard times, but it's still, these are some nice houses, and it's got a lot of potential. So when you're in a place like this, because you're allowed to just put a business anywhere, if you want to sell cell phones, you want to sell soda, you want to sell snacks, you want to do any random activity, you can do so out of your house at any time. And that makes for a completely different experience than you're used to in the United States, where you would need to go get a storefront or sell online. And while technically you may be able to operate out of your house, you're really not generally, there must be exceptions, but you're generally not allowed to use your house as a storefront. You can't expect people to come to it. You can't give it out as a public address and so forth. What a beautiful house this is with mature trees. And this one with this nice greenery. And here, it's not only allowed, it is heavily promoted. And one of the ways that they promote it is by having a incorporation mechanism, not a tax mechanism like you would expect in the US, but an actual incorporation mechanism, because remember, in the United States, we incorporate by state, but in most places they incorporate by country. And here in Nicaragua, they have special incorporation laws that involve the ability to start micro businesses very, very easily. The US has some accommodation for that, but not to the same degree. The United States focuses much more heavily on larger corporations, LLCs, and so forth. And if you're not a business person, these are not things you necessarily think about or know about, but here in Nicaragua, there's a lot of accommodation to make it easy for a small family to start up a tiny business at almost no cost other than the business itself. And they really want to encourage this because it does a lot to improve the economy and safety and everything else. And it gives a lot of flexibility so that people can have cottage industries, which is a great way to have an economy that is not very visible, but does really well. When people are happy business owners, they are generally going to be happy people. They want to clean up their neighborhoods. They want to keep them safe. They want to look after each other. And so it's a great way to encourage good civic behavior. This is the cemetery over here, if you're looking at the map. I knew this was over here. Wanted to see if I could find it. That was pretty easy, but I came up on the corner. I thought I was going to come up on the middle, so I didn't quite get it as good as I was hoping. And so that's a big push here. And for any business, you're required to have a physical address, which is the same in the United States, but it has to be a little bit different. And the easiest way to do that here is to actually have the address be your house and operate out of the house. And they have to be able to stop in and visit you to inspect your business, which they don't do very often, but they need to be able to. In the United States, they don't do that. They have to be able to send you mail at your address. It's slightly different. So in the United States, if you have a very small business and you need to maintain an address, you're most likely going to do so through something like a post office box or a service. But here, the easiest thing to do is to run the business out of your house where you're already living and you know you'll be there when they come to inspect. So it makes things really easy and obviously very cost effective. It also allows for a dual investment where you're investing in your house and your business at the same time, especially popular with doctors, lawyers, and so forth who have slightly higher incomes, but you find it everywhere with people doing pulperias, selling plastic goods out of their houses, clothing, sodas, you name it. Any little product you can imagine, there's a tiny little store running out of someone's house and they specialize in just one thing. It also makes an economy where people specialize in just one thing because you don't have enough space to have a general purpose store in your house normally. You have just enough space to have a small showroom for the things you can get. And so you get these tiny stores that do just one thing or another sprinkled all throughout the city. And as I can just put up the camera and show houses on the other side of the street, chances are 2 or 3 of those are a business, and I can see at least one within sight of the camera right now has ads out for what they do. And that's normal. You'll just have posters or placards or some kind of sign on the building. Depending, if you're a doctor, you may just have a plaque that says a doctor is here and what kind of doctor he is. And if you have something like a pulperia, then you're going to have placards up to say what it is that you sell. Now, this is interesting because I didn't realize this is where it was. I knew about where we were, but I didn't realize exactly where it is. This is El Sopan. So this is one of the most famous restaurants in the city, and you'll notice how it's built into a house in the middle of the neighborhood, much like Jalisco is built into a house in Fatima. Now notice that is a pulperia at the end of the street in the blue. And then this place in yellow here is some sort of pulperia or just at least a snack shop. This is a major, major restaurant. And then where the tricycle is, there's a little business there as well. So there's at least 4 businesses just in this little stretch here, and the rest are just houses, but they're built into houses. Now, El Sopan does not double as a house. And if you remember from my other episode from just the other day, El Sopan is the restaurant that owns La Antigua, the restaurant right by my house in La Barria, where we ate last Friday night. So this is, because these are mixed in, when I'm walking on these quiet streets, when I'm in these places that feel so much like there's nothing going on and I must be in an abandoned area and there's no one around, in reality, I'm often walking past active businesses. Now, most businesses like this, not El Sopan, for dinner, they will be packed. They do live music. They get very, very busy. I've been there for huge events, but I always took a taxi previously. Most of these businesses are very small, meaning they get very little traffic. There's not that many people coming to visit at any given moment, but there's someone working in the business almost all the time, and almost always someone comes by from time to time. And so, for example, the pulperia on the corner by my house in La Barria, they are selling all throughout the day. They're a relatively busy pulperia, and there's someone there at least every 3 to 5 minutes. It's relatively busy, but most of those people are just walking up, you say buenas, and you ask for a bag of chips, you ask for a soda. This is a gorgeous house right here. Just grab that. Actually, quite a few really nice places here. This is the same street that I came down a minute ago. And so because that, there's always people on the corners or in the middle of the street keeping an eye out on the street. You're almost never in a spot where you are alone on a street and no one can see you, no one can hear you. That's not really the case. And now this is not a pulperia. This is just a drink shop that they have here. So smaller than a pulperia. But if you live in this neighborhood and you wanted a drink, you could stop by and get it there. So these kinds of businesses really are sprinkled just absolutely everywhere. It would be incredibly unlikely to find a street, even a little one like this one, that has no businesses on it whatsoever. It could happen, it does happen, but for the most part, it does not exist. Even in Fatima, there is Jalisco and a couple pulperias sprinkled into the neighborhood. Now in gated communities, sometimes you may end up with nothing, but even in the gated community that I've shown you guys previously in Ciudad Sandino, there are 2 or 3 shops in that community as well. They may be more regulated because they have to get approval by their community or whatever. I have no idea how that may work, but they definitely have pulperias and such inside those little communities, and you need them because people depend on them. It's part of the lifestyle here that you have many fewer grocery goods or whatever in your house, and you're far more likely to stop by the pulperia instead of keeping things in your house. So for example, if you wanted a soda, you wouldn't keep 8 liters of soda in your house. You would simply have whatever soda bottle you're currently drinking from, and when you're done with it, you would walk next door to the pulperia, return the one that you have, pick up a new one, and walk back to your house. It's already chilled. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to store it in your house. You don't have to guess what you're going to want to drink in the coming days or how fast you're going to drink it. There's always a place to buy drinks, snacks, bread, cheese, milk, eggs, within a block of your house, so close that for like me growing up, it's closer to go to easily, I would say 8 to 12 businesses that are closer than the mailbox is at the house I grew up in, to give some scale. So that's so easy. I can go to several pharmacies, many pulperias. I can almost get to the grocery store. Not really, the grocery store is farther, but it is within the range of what would have been on our property, but not our mailbox. This is the stadium. If you remember my episode where we came to the baseball game here in León, this is the stadium we were at. And Alan, Anna, and I walked home from here. This is the current reigning Latin American baseball champions, and this I'm going to see if I can find it. We're going to walk around the stadium just a little bit because we're heading that direction. But so because of this, it changes what streets look like. It changes the behavior of how people act in neighborhoods. It makes for a lot more safety. It makes for a lot more convenience. It's weird. It takes a lot of getting used to understand how to interact with your community and what you're looking at and why these businesses exist the way that they do. But it's actually, for the most part, a very good thing. Not entirely. I'm not saying that it is a slam dunk and the only way that you should have zoning, but it is surprisingly useful and really changes some pretty basic approaches to life and makes for some severe practicality advantages. Viva León, jodido! This white stairway right here is the path up to the VIP box where we get air conditioning and watch the game. And I wish we had some air conditioning right now because it is hot out here. I keep saying that. It is humid out here. The air temperature is really, really comfortable, but it is so humid because of the rain. I am just sweating like crazy. That is uncomfortable as I walk. I believe I'm on 9th Street here as I head east. Get a little bit more of the stadium here. All right, I'm currently walking past part of the Alcaldía. This is where the municipal general services are. I just saw the garbage trucks going in there. So it's it's just like the maintenance kind of building here in the north part of town, but a lot of the city services come out of here. So one of the big things that changes because of this difference in zoning, because of this change of approach to everything, it means that so many fewer people need to commute. So many jobs, so many resources are available as part of your local community. It's an incredibly different thing than in the United States. So typically, when you live in the United States, whether it's a suburb, it maybe not if you live in downtown Manhattan, which I've done, but if you live outside of the downtown of a major city, the majority of Americans, when you want to go to the store, when you want to go to work, these are things that are going to involve either getting to work from home, and you're really lucky, or you're going to have to get in your car and you're going to commute, or maybe you're going to take a train. But your work and your local resources, your grocery store, your mini mart, all those kinds of things, the things that you're going to use to go shopping, to go out to eat, all of that are very unlikely to be within walking distance of your home. And so the lifestyle is very much one of, if you're going to go somewhere, you get in a car, and many times you even get on a highway, or you go quite some distance. It's once you're in a car, there's kind of a, well, we bothered to get in the car, we might as well drive really far to the thing we want to do, or head to a job that's a little bit farther away, because I have to commute anywhere anyway, so I might as well commute to something I like a little bit more, right? It makes sense. But here, because everything is so local, everything is so accessible, the need to have a car, very, very low. And the chances that you're going to commute farther than you can walk, very, very low. You're not going to commute to go to a restaurant. You're not going to commute to go to your shopping. You're not going to commute to go to work. Work is the most likely, but even that, not very often. And if you are going to do that, you're probably just going to hop a ride on a tricycle, like one of these, or on one of the little city, they're basically pickup trucks that people just hop into the back of. They're not quite pickup trucks. It's a little bit better than that, but it's not a bus. It's in between, and it's like 15 cents to go anywhere in the city. And that's what a lot of people use to get to and from work if it's farther than they feel like walking. But that's kind of how things are approached here. So the majority of people, this is kind of a cute house on the corner. They have a couch outside, a little open space in the front. That's pretty neat. And so communities, neighborhoods tend to be, what is this? Oh, it's a little tiny restaurant here on the corner. Cute, 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 cute. Communities tend to be places where you stay. You hang out in your community, the place where you live and the place where you work and the place where you go shopping. Hola! ¿Cómo están? Hola. And all that is very likely to be the same place. You're not going to head out and spend your work day in one neighborhood, and when you're in your house be in another neighborhood, and when you go out to eat or shop for your groceries be in a third neighborhood. That's not how things work, because everything's mixed in. How much that impacts lifestyle is really actually hard to describe. It's a huge factor as to why Latin American lifestyles, and especially like Nicaragua, are so vastly different than the United States. And it's hard to really explain that or to sense that when you first arrive, because of course if you're a tourist, you're going to stay in a hotel someplace in a tourist zone, and when you go to a restaurant, you're going to look up on TripAdvisor and you're going to say, well, within a 10-mile radius, where do I want to go to? And you're going to take a taxi or do something to get to something far away, and then, oh well, I want to go see this tourist attraction, and that may not be by your house. But those are not things you do when you live in a place. This is a beautiful house here that I'm walking by. I don't think I've ever been down this street. Maybe I have. Definitely not filmed this one. Wow, really nice. And this is a chicken, soft drinks, and more store. And so until you live in a place like this, until you really experience what it's like to, and we do this constantly. Every time we go to a grocery store, I walk. Most of the time that we go to a restaurant, I walk. When we're going to take public transportation somewhere. Hola! And when everybody's yelling at me. When we're going to get soda or snacks or eggs, I simply walk to someone on my block. I'm not even leaving the block. I may cross the street, but I'm not going to a different block in order to get those things. And that's very, very different than what we're used to. The idea that you just walk out the door at any moment, go to do the things you need and walk right back in, changes how you look at the world very quickly. And of course, again, if you live in Manhattan, you can do those things. But even most American cities have very limited capability to simply pop out the door and go do anything that you normally would do. It may be limited to just a few activities. This is a fruit and fruit smoothie business over here in the salmon color. I don't know what color it's going to come through on the video. And we have some banking and a pulperia over here. And this place sells toothpaste and what looks like maybe daycare. Not really sure. And this place is a doctor's office. And then there's an optics eyeglass place over here on the corner. And we have something on this corner. I don't know what this is. Let's take a... this is a tortilla, a large tortilla shop, tortilleria on this corner. We don't have too many large tortillerias. Mostly they're very, very small. I mean, this is still not giant, but much closer to being a factory. I don't know why it's closed. Maybe they only do first thing in the morning. This is a really pretty street as well. I wish I knew the name of this neighborhood. So that's really my take on why zoning has such an impact, why things feel so different. When you're watching my videos, look at this beautiful house. What a cool spot. All of this actually right here. When you're watching my videos, remember that I'm not alone on the street. They're not as quiet as they look. There are not abandoned blocks where no one's around. There's never a time of day where I'm running around. Here's another pulperia. A boxing gym. It's just not like it appears. I'm almost always in a situation, sure, in the middle of the night, businesses may be closed. I'm going past the lawyer's office, and things will be really quiet. But even then, there typically is so many businesses open quite late because people operated them out of their house. They don't normally have operating hours. As long as they're home, they keep them open. And so it's not unheard of to have at least one of the pulperias open until 2 o'clock in the morning. And families are often sitting out on their porches at night. So even when there's nothing open officially, there are people out on the street almost always. And when the streets look empty, generally if I turned the camera around and was hunting, this is a clothing shop on the right. If I hunted around with the camera enough, you would see that somebody was sitting out within view of me. And there's always a dog watching out for you as well, isn't there? Thanks for joining me. Whew, I'm warm. Please remember to like and subscribe. Leave your comments below. What are your experiences with zoning around the world? How do you think it affects you? Would you like to live in a place where you can walk to everything, but you're expected to never get in a car? What do you think? For me, I love it. But as you can see, I like walking. I'm about to go film tomorrow's episode, so when I'm all hot and sweaty for tomorrow, I apologize. The sun is out, it's crazy humid, and I'm dying out here, but I want to take you. This was just a nice walk, and I wanted to talk about zoning, but tomorrow, hopefully, if this walk goes where I think it's going, I'm going to show you a completely different side of León than I normally do. We are heading to the Paseo Real. Show you what we have over there. I'll see you all tomorrow.